I want to talk about what goes on in this book here. Um, this book is by Alvin Plantinga. Does God have a nature? Um, it's a small book, but there's a lot in it that I could probably talk about it for a long time. I might, but we'll see. Um, but I want to pose this question that I have not really um, thought about before, nor have I been presented with this question before. Um, what is discussed in the introduction, in the beginning of this book, is the question as to whether God has a nature. And now, when we say nature, we're thinking about properties. Like the Judeo-Christian idea of God is omnipotence, omnibenevolence, omniscience, omnipresence, sovereignty, aseity, necessity. You know, the explanation for God lies within himself. First cause, not in the sense that he caused himself, the unmoved mover kind of thing, uncaused causer kind of thing. These are the typical properties that, we think about when we think about God in philosophy. Now, in the philosophy of religion, we have various arguments for and against the existence of God. Now, it's somewhat recently, it's been more about why he does exist. This guy, Plantinga, is more on the for side. The question here is, think about God's omnipotence. Now, omnipotence means all-powerful. Omniscience means all-knowing. Omnibenevolent means all good. Omnipresence means he's everywhere. All these things. This also will relate one to the question as to how this abstract objects, like Plato's heavens kind of thing, how does that relate to God? It's often been thought that God maybe is these abstract objects or whatever. But the question, is where did the property of, let's say, omnipotence come from? Now, this is interchangeable with any of God's, typical properties, like you can use omnibenevolence, omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence, sovereignty, aseity, necessity, all of these. We can use any of them. Let's just use omniscience for one. Where did the property of omniscience come from? Did God create it? If God created it, then was there a time before God? Then was there a time of which God was not omniscient, and thus He created omniscient, and then thus acquired that property? So, and first of all, the question is as to where did these properties come from? These omniscience, where did it come from? How, did God make it? And if He made it, there's this possibility. Did He create it? And then thus was there a time when He wasn't omniscient? And if that was so, then He must not have been God at that point. So the question posed is, does God have a nature? Does He have properties? Plantinga does talk about cases where it is argued that He does not. That He is outside of the idea of property. He's outside of all that. So can you see the problem here? The problem as to which the properties and God. If God created all these properties and then assumed them, that could be problematic. That could mean there was a time before those properties when he did not have them because they did not exist. So I guess, if you want to go the Christian route, you could say he's transcendent, thus he's timeless, no beginning, no end, and thus through the whole supposed time that he has been around, he's always had all these properties. So can you see the issue here? This is an issue that I have not come across before, not until reading this book here, by Alvin Plantinga, who's a great philosopher of religion. If you can get this book at all, I highly recommend getting it, or checking it out, or reading it. It's full of thought. I mean, it's so much thought is here. And he is one to argue that God does have a nature, and which is what I'm getting into. But I wanted to make a video and just think about, what about all these properties? Like, what if... Can you see how problematic that is? Because it is. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks.